that make you go,
What the deuce?
This is the Old Guy Network.
Hey, welcome back to the Old Guy Network. I'm the old guy, the OGJ, and today is all about things that just don't make any sense. You know, like the comedian Gallagher once said, why do we drive in a parkway, but we park in a driveway? Or women wear evening gowns to nightclubs. Why don't they wear nightgowns? I ask myself questions like that all the time. Today, I found something going through my shed, and I found this Sharpie. Everybody knows what a Sharpie is. It says right there, permanent marker. Permanent ink, I think it believes. Yeah, permanent marker. That's what it says right on there. Permanent, that means forever, right? This is also a Sharpie. And this one says super permanent. So the first one lasts forever, and the second one lasts forever and a little bit longer. That doesn't make any sense to me. I don't understand this. Are they admitting that this isn't permanent now? And this one's a little closer to permanent? Maybe that's what it is. They get a little bit more money for this one than they do this one. It's a scam, I'm telling you. But it got me thinking about the way people act and the way people process information. And I was a pawnbroker for quite a few years, and it used to just blow my mind when people would come into my shop and they'd want to sell me something that they bought 3 or 4 years ago and try to get the exact same amount of money that they paid for it. And, it just doesn't work that way. And then, I realized that people just don't understand how pawn shops work sometimes, and secondhand stores and that sort of thing. So I thought what I would do is educate you a little bit on a pawn shop, try to give you a little bit of advice on what you can do to prepare when you go into a pawn shop, whether you're buying something, you're pawning something, or you're selling something. There is a difference between pawning and selling, and a lot of people don't know what that is. So I'm going to get into that, and hopefully you're going to get something out of this that will make sense. So a pawn is a collateralized loan. Let's say you want to borrow some money. You go into a pawn shop, you bring something with you. Let's just say a TV. And the pawnbroker determines that TV is worth $90. And you agree. The pawnbroker then is going to offer you probably about 1/3. He's going to offer you $30. But remember, this is a loan. He's not buying the TV. So you take the $30, sign some paperwork, and depending on where you are, what state you're in, you have a certain amount of time you have to pay that off, plus the interest. In the state where I am, in Maine, it's 30 days. So in 30 days, or within 30 days, you come back in, you pay the principal, and then you pay the interest, you get your TV, and you go home and everybody's happy. Now let's say you can't pay the whole thing in 30 days, but you can make an interest payment. You come in, you pay the interest, you get the loan for another 30 days. So I had people that would come in for, they'd come in 6 times. 6 months they'd have something there, but every month they made an interest payment. Then when they finally were able to get it, they would just give me the principal, whatever, it was $30, plus they'd have to make another interest payment. So pawnbrokers like that when you do that, because it's a lot easier, right, to make more money that way. And you don't have to move anything. You just got the TV sitting out back, and it just sits there and collecting dust. So yeah, that's always good. The only time that's bad is if you've got something that really devalues within time after time. And I've seen that before too. I know people in pawn shops, pawnbrokers, who have had stuff for 2 years, and they loaned out $500 for something, and at the end of the 2 years the guy doesn't come to pick it up, and the thing's only worth about $100 now because so much time. Laptop computers, tablets, desktop computers, that sort of thing, game consoles. So you have to be, you have to know what you're doing when you do this. But that's what that is. Now, usually what a pawnbroker will do is give you about 1/3 of what it's worth for a loan. Now remember, he's not buying it. He's just loaning you the money. So the reason why they do that is if you don't come back and let's say I'm stuck with a TV and it's worth $90. Well, I put it up for sale for $90. Somebody comes in and says, hey, I'll give you $60. Paid $30 for it. So yeah, I double my money and I sell it. When you're bringing something into a pawn shop to sell, you really got to do some research first. You want to know what that item's worth. Now, a lot of people, they'll think, well, I've got this TV, I paid $250 for it, just 3 years ago. So I'm bringing it in, and he's going to give me $250 for it. He's not going to give you $250 for it. The first thing the pawnbroker is going to do is try to figure out what it is worth. Now, back in the old days, before we had the internet, it was tough. They had to look at sale flyers, see what new TVs were costing, and then try to guess what the depreciation was and what other shops were paying for them. Nowadays, they don't do that. One of the things that I used to do is I'd go right over to eBay. And the first thing I would do, let's say it was a 32-inch Vizio TV. As you can see right there, I already did the search. And if we move over here, you can see there's a bunch of categories on this side. Now, normally I would put in the model number of what it was, so I know exactly which one it was. Now, if you look over onto the side here, and you can see all these little categories on the side, you can put new, used. Over here, we want to put used. And let's see, here we go, used. And that's going to show us the used TVs. So if we take a look, and let's find one here. Here's one, no remote, and that's another thing. If you bring a TV into a pawn shop, bring the remote with you too. That's worth a few dollars. It really is. It's terrible. You walk into a pawn shop and there's all these TVs there and no remotes for them. So that's the first thing you want to do. You take a look and say, okay, this is what they're asking for them. They're asking $79.88 for this one here. Go around, oh, that one they want $159, so it must be worth $159. No, it isn't. Keep on looking at these categories here, and if you go all the way down to the bottom, you'll see one here, it says sold items. You click that. That tells you what they actually sold for. And you can see, like, this one was $100 plus $30 shipping, so that's $130. This one sold for $75 plus $55. You get the idea. So now you go into the pawn shop knowing that it's worth, about $130. That's what my TV is worth. So what does this do for you? Well, this tells you how much money you should be able to get for it. Now, you're not going to get the $130 because that's what it's worth. And in my pawn shop, I used to look up things on eBay all the time. I had two monitors on my computer, one that I saw and one that they saw. So they knew I wasn't trying to rip them off. I don't know if anybody else that did that, but I used to do that, and I would explain to them, and I'd have to explain it every time. That's what it's worth. It's worth $130. If I have that TV in the shop, that's what I'm going to put a price on. I'm going to put it on there for $130. Probably going to sell it for $125, maybe $120. Probably not any lower than that. So I have to get that at a decent price. What's a decent price? I'm going to offer you half. So if I think it's worth $130, it's at $65. That's what I'm going to offer you for it. And then, you decide right then and there, well, I can get more for that if I put it on Craigslist. You go right ahead. What I used to tell people was, you do it. You put it on Craigslist. You write the ad. You talk to the people. You take the phone calls, the messages, or instant messages, that sort of thing. And you sell. You meet up with somebody, and you pick a place to meet up, and hopefully they're not going to rob you. You do all that, or you take the $65 and you have a good day. And most of the time they just took the $65. But you have to be realistic. When you bring in something, you're not going to get the money you paid for it. Especially with TVs, man, people would come in there all the time. I paid $500 for this TV 3 years ago. Well, then I could go to a retailer website, one of the big box stores, and say, well, that same TV now is worth $100, brand new, or whatever the price is, because TVs they came down a lot. So, and it was frustrating for them, and but it would have been better if they had done a little research first and known exactly what it was worth. Another thing you can do is just go to Craigslist, go to other websites, if you got these Facebook buy, swap, sell sites, go on those pages and look and see what people are paying for stuff and what they're selling things for. But you got to remember, there's a big difference between an asking price and what they're actually selling. So if you use eBay to check it out, or Amazon, or any of those, but I know eBay has the designation on there of what they actually sold, the sold listings, and that's what you want to look at. What do I mean by clean and complete? Well, exactly what I said. Make sure when you bring something into a pawn shop or a secondhand store, or really if you're selling anything, clean it up. Make it look as close to new as you possibly can. I used to spend a lot of time, a big part of my day, was cleaning stuff before I put it out for sale. People would bring stuff in, and if it looked like crap and I knew I had to put some time into it, I'm not going to offer you as much money. That's just a fact. So make sure it's all clean and complete. Like I said before, if you bring a TV in, make sure you have the remote. If you have a radio that has a remote, make sure you bring in the remote. If there are any parts, if you have something, I had a guy that brought in a telescope once, a really fancy one with a motor on it, and you hooked it up to a laptop. Half the parts were missing, and he almost got me. But a lot of the parts were missing. I said, no, I can't do this. You go home and you find the rest of it and put it back together and bring it in here. Because if I have to order other parts to put on things, and I don't want to do that. No pawnbroker wants to do that. So clean it up, make it look as close to new as you possibly can. That doesn't mean, if your item has scratches on it, you have to paint it or anything. No, just clean it all up, make it look as good as possible, because eventually I'm going to have to sell it if you're selling it to me, and I'm going to have to resell it. And even if it's a pawn, if you bring it in for a pawn, it's worth more if it's clean. Now, jewelry and things like that, small items, that's not the case. They want to clean those anyway, so you don't have to worry about jewelry. But as far as bringing in TVs, stereos, tools, things like that, that every pawnbroker takes in, and guns, make sure they're clean, very clean, because we don't want to have to worry about that. We don't want to have to spend any more time on it than we absolutely have to, and you will get more money for it. If something looks better, you're going to get a better price. This one sounds kind of silly, doesn't it? Don't lie to a pawnbroker. A lot of people will come in, especially with TVs, they'd come in and say, oh, I just got this for Christmas a couple of months ago. And what they don't realize is on the back of the TV, there's a manufacture date on almost every TV that's manufactured. And they can look at it, and it was really funny when some people say, oh, yeah, I just got that for Christmas. It's almost brand new. And I would look back there and say, that's funny, because it says you bought this in 2007. That's like 9 years ago. I closed my shop a couple years ago. And then they, no, maybe that was the other TV. Then you knew they were full of crap, and the negotiation is not going to go well after that. And sometimes you can lie to a pawnbroker and you can get away with it, and you walk out the door with your cash, giggle, and then the pawnbroker's going to realize just what happened. And guess what? Your name goes down on a little piece of paper, and next time you come in, it says, hey, I'm not dealing with you. Not at all. And so, you want to get a good relationship with the pawnbroker, or if it's a second-hand shop, that sort of thing. You want to have a good relationship. You want to be able to come back there again, whether it's to sell more stuff, pawn something, or to buy something. So just don't lie to them, and know what you have. I used to get people coming in all the time, and they had no clue of what the thing was that they had. Well, the pawnbroker's going to look it up. He's going to have to take time to figure out what it is. And if you're lying to him, he's going to look it up anyway, and he's going to know you're lying. So just be honest, okay? And hopefully the pawnbroker is going to be honest with you too. This is the part that I really liked. This got me out of bed every morning to go to work. I love wheeling and dealing with people. So when you go into a pawn shop and you're going to buy something, and you got to know a few simple things. First of all, what are you looking at? Everybody's got a smartphone, or almost everybody has a smartphone. And if you go into a pawn shop, you want a smartphone. You want to look up on eBay like I showed you. You want to figure out what the prices are. It can give you the advantage. You can talk to the pawnbroker and say, hey, I see this item over here, and you're asking $150 for it, but I see on eBay I can pick that up for $110, and on Amazon they got it for $99.99 plus free shipping. So would you take $100 for it? A lot of time, the pawnbroker will say, yes, of course I will, because remember, he may only have 1/3 into that. So yeah, he can do that. Now, knowing that he only paid 1/3, or if it was a pawn, or if he just bought it outright, he probably paid 50%, 40%, somewhere around there. It gives you an idea of how much to offer a pawnbroker. If you walk into a pawn shop, and usually a second-hand shop too, and just pay what it says on the tag, well, you're throwing money away, because they know that you're going to try to deal with them, and that's why they jack the prices up just a little bit. Some of them, they jack it up a lot. I had people coming into my shop saying, geez, that's an awful lot of money for a saw. And I'd say, well, there's 2 other pawn shops down the road. They've got the same saw. Both of them have the same saw, or one similar to it, and they're asking $40 more each. So this is mine. Then if they did their homework, they could say, well, I can get the same saw online for another $20 less. So then I would deal with them. That was the fun part. I love doing that, and that's the only thing I really miss, to be honest with you. The pawns and the buying and all, take it or leave it. But selling stuff to people and getting to sharpen your negotiation skills, that was the fun part for me. So be prepared. Just like if you were going to pawn something or buy something or sell something, you want to do the same thing when you're buying something. Know what the item is. Check out the price online. If you got a smartphone in your pocket, real easy to do that now, and you can make the best deal. And this is probably the best piece of advice. Don't argue with the guy behind the counter at a pawn shop. It's never going to go your way. He's going to get frustrated. He's going to ask you to leave. That's the way it is. If you don't like the offer that he made, just say, okay, I'll go somewhere else. And then you go somewhere else. Then you can come back, and get a better deal. A lot of times I had people that would come in. Usually it was younger people, younger guys. They'd bring in a guitar or a tool, something like that. And I'd offer them something, and they would take offense to it. I'd give them an offer. No, it's worth a lot more than that. And then they'd leave. And then about an hour later, I'd see them again. They come back into the shop with that same thing and say, okay, I'll take your offer now. Because they went to another shop and they found out that they were going to get even less at these other shops. Sometimes, if you argued with me and made a little bit of a fuss before you left, well, when you came back, I no longer had to give you that offer. So if I offered you $100 for something and you left and then came back, I'm going to offer you $80. And I had one gentleman, he did that. He left twice. And he went to 3 different shops. And he came back and he said, all right, what'll you give me now? And I ended up, I think the first offer was like $100. By the time we were done, I think I paid him $50 because he wasted my time and he argued with me and he got me upset. Now was I right? I don't know. But obviously when he went to these other shops, he found out that it wasn't worth as much. So he gave me information, letting me know that I was paying too much for it anyway. So no, I don't feel bad about it. And that was a fun part too. So don't argue with him. Just go in. If you don't like the offer, just say, okay, I got to think about it, and leave. That's the best thing you can do. Now, even if you go to 2 or 3 other shops, if you get a better deal there, great. If you don't, they offer you less. You can always come back and say, well, would you still give me the $100 that you offered before? And as long as you were nice about it and you didn't argue with me and didn't lie to me, and yeah, you're probably going to get that deal. So don't argue. That's simple, right? And that's pretty much it. You are educated now on how to go into a pawn shop and get the best deal that you can. It was quite an education for me. I mean, it took years to figure out how to do everything the way, that was advantageous to me and to the customer. The way I always looked at it, and a lot of pawnbrokers don't, but the way I looked at it is, if I kept you happy and I gave you just enough money to keep you happy, you'll come back. You'll either come back to pawn, you'll come back to sell, you'll come back to buy, and that's what business is all about. Now, hopefully this was helpful to you. So if you're thinking about going to a pawn shop after all this coronavirus stuff is all done and things are back to normal, well, now you'll be a little better prepared. I hope you liked this video. I hope you got something out of it. And if you did, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you subscribe, don't forget to hit that notification bell and choose all notifications. That way you won't miss a video. And that's going to do it for me, the OG. I'm out.